Here.
Amy Copleasure. Here. Claudia Willis.
Here.
The consent agenda, all of the following items which concern reports and items of a routine nature normally approved at board meetings will be approved by one vote unless any member wishes to consider an item separately. The consent agenda consists of the discussion, consideration, and approval of the following items. A, the minutes from the July 14th, 2014 special board meeting and the July 15th, 2014 special board meeting. B, the financial reports of activity accounts and the treasurer's report. C, encumbrances and changes in the following funds. 1, general fund fiscal year 14, numbers 1,089 through 1,268, and numbers 50,000 through 50,056. 2, the child nutrition fiscal year 14, number 50,000. D, fundraisers. E, resignations of Deb Stacy, Rakita Crawford, and Paula Harvey. F, contracts for Protop cleaning.
I'll make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Amy Copleasure.
Yes.
Jack Cadenhead.
Yes.
Jamie Mills.
Yes.
Kay Levy. Claudia Willis.
Yes.
Introduction of guests and give audience to those who signed up to address the board. And I believe we
Yes,
have
we
one.
have Jimmy Schote and Leanne Morgan.
All right.
Yes, please.
I'll be very brief. I thought there would be a number of people here from our community in Pleasant Grove, but I guess they're late or not coming. But we were told that there was going to be a nonprofit court address you about turning that school into a drug rehab. I don't know if they've done that or not. The word is out that they are going to. I would strongly ask you not to do that. I live down the hill from that school. Our property values would go down. The threat of crime and violence would go up. I've already been broken into twice by druggies, one that came back 4 times in 1 week to harass me all week long. I really don't want that in my neighborhood. And I've spoken to, well, I guess I should say their names, to Mike Snyder and to Sandy Kiker and to Jimmy Schote, and we're all at Dan Hamilton. Everyone is against that. And of course, they told me some things to say, but I'm going to hold those back for now. But I know that that group is going to approach you about that. That's all I'm here for, is to say, please don't do that. The other request is, would you please get it mowed? It looks terrible out there. That was another comment that they all asked me to share, but I will share that one. That's all I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And is that it? Okay. Administrative report and school correspondence.
Yes. Did you want to do this correspondence first?
Whatever you want.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to share, I received a letter from, she's actually my neighbor, just kind of in response to policies we enacted last meeting. And this is positive. This is not just, she knows me, so she's not just, I'm not just talking about myself. This is for the whole board, and she stressed to me that that's her intention, but she knows me. So it's a neighbor of mine, and I wanted to read her letter that she sent to me. Dear Jack, I must tell you how encouraged and elated I am to learn of Seminole Public Schools announcing a more strict student dress code as printed in the Seminole Producer. As a grandmother to MC, a 15-year-old, soon-to-be sophomore, I have listened to her description of conditions at school that have caused me alarm. I honestly have been in prayer for some serious breakthroughs for the students and teachers. I've been employed at New Lima High School for almost 8 years now. I am secretary to the principal and also administer the remediation and credit recovery program. We use the A+ ALS learning system. I am impressed with what that company offers in this area. I've dealt with youth most of my life as a Sunday school teacher and youth leader. The youth of our community and our nation has always been one area of great concern to me. We must endeavor to remain aware of the shifting times and related conditions that challenge educational leaders to successfully address and then resolve the issues. I am enclosing a great resource I discovered this past year. I shared it with our school counselor, and he will adapt portions of the information into his biology classes for students to consider. I've copied Chapter 10, which to me is inspirational to consider, but contains a lot of data to support both doctors' research on the addiction to cell phones, video games, etc. I want to thank you for your part in the school board. I so appreciate your efforts and concerns. I know the day-to-day enforcement of more strict rules will be a challenge. I pray that the administration and teachers hold the line. The young people so need unwavering discipline as they grow up in such times as we now face in our community and nation. God bless you all. I shall continue my prayers for our youth, our teachers, and our administrators. That's from signed Joyce Booth, and she's been a neighbor of mine for several years, and we live behind the high school. So thought folks would like to hear that.
That's right.
Positive feedback.
We appreciate her prayers. Any other correspondence? Anyone else? Okay. All right. We completed our 3 days of professional development today. Thursday, the high school and middle school teachers participated in our career pathways today. We had representatives from the Oklahoma Department of Commerce, the Oklahoma State Department of Education, the Governor's Council on Workforce and Economic Development, the State Workforce Youth Council, the Central Workforce Investment Board, and the Southern Oklahoma Industrial Coalition had representatives at this. It was really a nice event, really was. We had breakfast that was supplied by the Seminole Industrial Foundation, and them and Enviro Systems combined together to provide the breakfast for our teachers. And then Steve Saxon addressed them, talked about, actually we showed a video first that kind of showed, I don't know if you've been to the Department of Commerce and seen the latest video that they have. It talks about Oklahoma and where we rank in aerospace and in energy production and all that. And Oklahoma is at the top of the list in a lot of things. We don't really realize that because we see all the negative things about Oklahoma all the time, about teacher pay and everything else, especially in Seminole County. We see a lot of those type of statistics, but this really focused on the positive and made you proud to be, from Oklahoma. And then Steve talked about the importance of having an educated workforce that he could use to recruit business and industry. And then I spoke to the teachers a little bit just about the challenges that we face, because I relayed to them how whenever I became an educator, and I've mentioned this before, I'd been in school, went to college, came out of college, right back into the school system. I didn't spend any time other than when I was in college in the workforce, and that was just doing manual labor. I didn't really take part in the workforce in a professional manner of any type, or in any type of major industry or anything like that. And most of our teachers are in the same position. I taught whatever I was supposed to teach. To begin with, it was a textbook, and after that it was the past objectives, and just taught what we were told to teach. Didn't really give much thought to where the students would use what we taught them, because our job was to teach what we were told to teach, and that's what we taught. And then after I got out of being a teacher, got into administration, shortly after that I was appointed to the Governor's Council on Workforce and Economic Development, and I was in a unique position because I'm the only K-12 educator on the council beside the State Superintendent of Public Instruction. And to begin with, Sandy Garrett was the one that was on there, and she'd been out of the classroom for decades by that time. And then Janet Barisi never has been in a classroom. And so all the questions would come to me about why students aren't prepared for the workforce, because that was a major, you're talking about any representatives from Boeing, OG&E, you name it. The Governor's Council is made up of 51% private business and industry. And they were always saying that the product that comes out of, public education is not ready for the workforce. And so that really bothered me because, we did what we thought we were supposed to do. And so the first thing that we tried to do in Seminole, and of course that's a statewide problem, and they would ask me, and being the only one that could really address it, I tried to kind of talk to them about, what we tried to do as educators, but it really was, it kind of stung. And I was put in a position of defending public education a lot. And one of the first things that we did was start the Work Keys assessment, because it's an ACT product, and it's the only recognized assessment that is given to tell if students know how to apply the knowledge that they've acquired. And we added in with that the Key Train to help prepare them. And so that was our first step in trying to prepare our students and see if they were prepared for the things that they needed to be able to do. And then I still kind of kept hearing that. It wasn't directly about Seminole. And then the next thing I thought, well, I need to really emphasize to the teachers that we need to make all of our lessons relevant. We really need to ensure that everything that we teach is aligned with something that they'll be asked to do when they get out of high school, whether it be in the business world of some type, or whether they go on to college. And then it finally dawned on me that I was asking them to do something that they probably, they tried, but they probably didn't really know how to do because they didn't have that knowledge, because they were just like me. They hadn't been out in business and industry. They didn't really know what was required of how they applied directly the math and the English language arts and history and any of those type of things in the work world. And so that's where the Career Pathways Day really developed, was the idea of, okay, let's get our teachers into business and industry and let them see how what they teach is applied. And it's the beginning of a partnership that we hope grows and grows and grows to where our teachers are very aware of how the skills that they teach are used and really start to give more and more relevant lessons that are preparing our students for what they'll do when they get out in the workforce. I think that they really enjoyed the day, and I think that the partnership that we're beginning to develop with the people involved in that will really end up being something productive for us and for our kids in the future. And I think that it'll help us have a direction to help us know what we need the students to do. And one of the things I told them too is that, you know, with everything that's happened with Common Core, PASS, you name it, we really don't know what they want us to teach, and they don't know what they want us to teach. It's really kind of a messed up situation right now. And so what I told them is that what I wanted us to start to do is find out what our students need to be able to do to prepare them for the workforce and for college, and do our best to prepare them for that. I couldn't ask them to not look and see what's going to be on the test on the state website and you know, obviously prepare their students for what might be on it, but I didn't want that to be our focus any longer. I wanted our focus to be preparing our students for life after school, and hopefully those things will fall in place. And that's what's disappointing about the fact that we backed away from Common Core, because Common Core is so much more concentrated on problem-solving skills, critical thinking skills, the things that students really need to be able to do. And I hate that it got caught in politics and done away with, and I'm afraid with the bill that they've passed that any wording that's similar to Common Core, they're not going to let us do that either. So we're going to prepare our kids for the future and hope that they do well on the tests. And so that's kind of the direction that we went there. And then after I spoke with them, Dr. Sherry LeBeer, the superintendent at Duncan, who's the new director of accountability with the state, she talked a little bit about what they've done with the Career Pathways, because they started it a couple of years ago. And she spoke at length about the things that they've done to try to build the program in their area, and it's been received really well. And in speaking to some of the teachers after they took the tours of the sites, they really enjoyed that. And most of them had never been into Enviro, hadn't been into Blue Wave or to Wrangler. And so it was the first time for them, and they didn't realize it was there. And one thing that was interesting is that in the Department of Commerce video, when they were showing aerospace, several of the shots were from Enviro system. And so, you know, we have a hidden gem right here in our midst that a lot of people don't realize, you know, it is a really good place to work. And another thing I told them is that, you know, beyond just what the skill set that they need to have and how they need to apply what they've learned, the biggest thing that I heard over and over and over, and I've heard this at every level, is that graduates don't have the soft skills that they need. And that's, you know, being responsible, showing up on time, having integrity, and more than anything, being persistent, that they, you know, they can solve problems and they're persistent, they stay after it and they work, and those are the things that make the smartest kids in the world. And so we want to really emphasize that. And what I told the teachers is that if you don't see something that's directly applied to what you do, if you don't, you know, a lot of it, of course, is going to be math, and you get any of these, you know, especially with the engineers and also even the Blue Wave, same type thing. A lot of it's going to be math, but it's not really the high-end math. They really need students to be able to know the basic math and how to measure and how to cut. And very few industries really require you to know calculus, and a lot of people don't realize that. And we're always trying to prepare all our kids for that highest level math, and it's great that they can do it, and yours are a whiz at it. But there's not that many places where they actually use that math. And so, and I told them too that there's a lot of research, and I know you guys are aware of this too, that what academia considers to be important in education and what business and industry consider to be important are way far apart. Like, they've surveyed English teachers as to, you know, what are the really important things for students to learn and to know, and what do you need them to be able to do with English language arts, and they're way far apart, way far apart. And that doesn't mean that what the English teachers want to teach is necessarily bad, because we want to develop well-rounded, whole individual, you know, type type students, but at the same time, we don't want to do that at the expense of preparing them for what they really need to be able to do. And once again, Common Core was good in that you got away from quite as much fiction, and really a lot more technical writing was what they were going to be required to read and to write, which is what they need them to be able to do. So we kind of spent the day, working on that. And I thought that one thing that was interesting, talking about the soft skills, is that at Blue Wave they told us about an individual that they just hired for a $65,000 a year job, but within the first 2 weeks had to miss one day for something, and then turn around and had to miss another day for something. And so they end up letting this individual go, who's making $65,000, because even at that level of a job, didn't have the soft skills of showing up on time, being there, being dependable, being punctual, and just having the qualities that you want out of your employees. So that was kind of interesting that it can happen at every level. While that was going on with the middle school and high school staff, well, then we were working with pre-K through third grade. They were working on our new curriculum, Envision, that we purchased for them, and so they were being trained in the use of that new curriculum. And then the fourth, fifth, and sixth grade teachers were working on their data and their data boards. Then on Friday, we met with the entire staff, and I spoke with the entire staff then to begin with, and spent quite a bit of time talking about how we want to raise the bar. We want to really have high expectations of our students, and we want to have high expectations of ourselves. And then I got into a little bit discussing with them the new evaluation systems. First we talked about the curriculum, and the same thing that I'd kind of told the middle school and high school teachers about how we want to prepare our students for the future, and not that we're not going to worry about the test because we have to, and we're doing a disservice to our teachers if we tell them not to worry about it, because they're still, their evaluations are still tied to it. So then we moved into talking a little bit about the value added, and see, we in 2010 when they passed the Common Core with the Race to the Top grant, they also added in the TLE, which is a new evaluation system. Now this past year was our first full year on the qualitative part of that, and the qualitative is 50% of it, and we've all gone and been trained, and they keep changing it even at that. But and it seemed like a huge change in evaluation just doing that portion of it, but that's just half of it. The other half of it is the quantitative part, and in the quantitative part, 15% of that 50% is other academic measures, which you get to work with your teachers as a principal to develop those other academic measures. The other 35% is all based on test scores, which is disturbing because they want to say that, say, the 8th grade reading test is if that's the last test a student took, and before they take the English 2 test, well, then they're going to use the reading test as an 8th graders and say it's equivalent to the English 2 test. And so that I don't believe that they can really make that equivalent, but they've come up with a system, and here's a system that they've come up with. It's really easy. What they've done, and of course we advocated for using NWA, because NWA is computer adaptive. It can tell exactly where a student is. When they miss a question, it automatically drops back, the computer does, ask another question and finds out where that student is exactly. And that's a true way, if the students are putting effort into it, to know where they are and to know how much progress they made. So, and we do that, so we know from our data what type of growth we get out of our teachers.
More diagnostic.
Yes, it's more diagnostic, much more so. But what they've developed at the State Department level, and who knows for sure if they'll even stay with this, but this is what they've come up with, is that, say if I'm a teacher and I have 25 kids in my class, every one of my students will be in a cohort. And what they do is they take all the demographic information from our student accounting system and develop, what race they are, if they're free and reduced lunch, if they're English language learners, if they happen to be on an IEP, any number of things to group that student. And then the last component of that is how they did on the last test they took. This is going to be compared with. So if I'm an English 2 teacher, well, how they did on the 8th grade reading test. And then all of my students will have a cohort across the state of students that have similar demographics and scored similarly on the last test that they took. Then when they take the test in the spring in my class, they'll take all those kids in the cohort and see how they scored. and the average that they scored, well, they'll develop a scale for if they scored, like if my students scored at that average, then I'm assuming that that will be a 3, which means effective. If they score below that average, it'll be somewhere in probably a 2, which is toward ineffective. If they score over, it'd be a 4. And so that's the way they're going to determine whether our teachers have added value to the students. And so every student in the class will have a cohort, and every student will be compared, and then that'll be averaged for each student if those students did better, worse, or the same as their cohort across the state. Is that clear as mud?
So how timely is this process going to be?
Oh, real
And
timely. We will get this
information
we'll get this
back?
information in fall of the year after we've evaluated them. So it'll be timely. So, and that's one of the main questions I asked when I went to the training. I said,
Crazy.
this doesn't do us very much good when we've already done our evaluation. And the thing that's really tough about it is that we have to, as administrators, if your qualitative doesn't match up with your quantitative, well then if I'm evaluating you, I've got to mark you down that your qualitative and quantitative didn't align. And so that puts tremendous pressure on the ones that are doing the evaluating to ensure that, well, what do I do here? I don't have test results yet, And so if you go ahead with the quantitative, and then otherwise it's a year behind, lagging. And so it's a system that needs a lot of work. I'm hoping that it goes away the Common Core, but we can't count on that because it's still to me, I thought it was a unique way of addressing that, because I thought, how in the world are they going to come up with a way to do this value added? And I'm still not convinced that it's a good or proper way to do it, especially with the timeliness, like you pointed out. That makes it kind of blows your mind with that. But that's where we're heading right now, and whether that stays in place, I don't know. But this is a pilot year for that, so we have to do that this year. We're going to have results from last year that we can use to kind of see if our qualitative and our quantitative align with each other. And I'll say this, I think that most of our administrators have been fairly conservative in their evaluation process because they know that the quantitative portion is coming, and it really makes you leery of giving too high marks, because if it doesn't match up then on the value added, well then it doesn't look real good. So,
But not every subject tests that
no,
way either.
that's the other problem. See, because all the subject to test, you're going to have this supposedly hard data that shows how much value they added. But any other subject, they are probably at this point going to be allowed to come up with their own pre-test, post-test to tell how much value they've added. Now tell me how fair that is for a teacher to be able to make their own pre-test, post-test and have that be their 35% versus somebody that actually has the test data with the cohorts and everything they're doing with that. So to me, it's still a system that is not effective. And research isn't showing that tying evaluations to test scores is an effective means of making progress anyway. So
It's not greater accountability.
right, exactly. So we talked about that quite a bit to try to give them an idea. I didn't go into a lot of detail, just similar to what I did today, but I wanted them to know when the principal started to talk to them about that. I always believe that the first time you hear something, you catch a lot of it, but then the second time it's a lot clearer. And so when they start to talk with them, I think they'll have a pretty good idea as what's going on. And then we spent quite a bit of time, too, just talking about the teaching profession, because I was reading an article the other day, was talking about how this guy had written a book. He was talking about how the teaching profession has been under fire for some time, and he said he started in 2006, but in Oklahoma it started before that. It started back with Frank Keating, probably, that it's been under fire. And you hear on a regular basis that our public schools are a failure, public schools are a failure, and I just don't believe that that's the case. I really don't. I mean, I think there's students that could do better, and there's teachers that could do better, and there's schools that could do better. But when you look at what we asked students to know compared to what we used to ask them to know, it's a huge difference. I mean, especially with PASS. I mean, there's so much in there that we're supposed to teach the kids. Some of it's important, some of it's not. But when you have that much that you're wanting them to learn compared with what we used to ask students to learn, you really have no comparison, and it's hard to say that public schools are failing. But in with that discussion, we talked a little bit about the perception of public education and how important it is that we as professionals put forth our best foot, because we want to dress professionally, we want to act professionally, not just at school, but everywhere we are. Because if we don't act professionally, we can't expect people to treat us as professionals and give us the respect that is due, because it's really tough to be an educator at every level now. It's not an easy job, but we have to ensure that the first perception they have of us, whether it's coming into the building or whether we're at Walmart, wherever it might be, that we're always representing our profession and we're representing Seminole schools. And so we had that discussion a little bit. And then after that, we had a speaker come in from, let me find my place, Joanne Poole Blades from the Special Education Resolution Center came and spoke to us. And she actually kind of followed up a little bit about some of the things that I was talking about before that. And then in that afternoon, we had Sharon House and somebody else. Who was the other one that came with Sharon?
That was Ellen Kimbrough.
Yes, Ellen Kimbrough came from the Oklahoma Parent Center. And so that the day was pretty much dedicated to special education on that day. And then today, this morning, we went to Shawnee, and we met with Shawnee, Tecumseh, and Dale. And from 9 to 11:30, we did Teach Like a Rock Star, which he did a really nice job. It's very motivational. And his main message was that teachers make a difference. And, you never know when you're going to be the one that makes a difference in that child's life. And so it's so important that we really pay attention to each student and that we try every single day to make an impact on their lives. And that's something we talk about all the time and we firmly believe in as well. And then this afternoon that was allocated for the site principals to meet with their staff to talk about data, to start to go over the evaluation systems that I'd introduced to them. And then that wrapped up our third professional day today. I'd like to end with that. I'd like to really thank Steve Saxon and the Seminole Industrial Foundation. I'd like to thank Seminole State and Dr. Utterback and Lana Reynolds for allowing us to use Seminole State for our launch. At Enviro System, Nancy Horn did a fantastic job, and at Wrangler it was Ray McQuiston, and then Pam Parks at Blue Wave. They did a really nice job of working with our staff and making them feel welcome and trying to help them see what they do at those sites. And I really appreciate them and their efforts to help us on all of that.
Mr. Pritchard,
Yes.
on the special education professional development, what were they speaking to, kind of in general? Did it have to do with mainstreaming?
Yes, some of it was about that. It was the first part was about actually conflict resolution, and so it was, even though it's about special education, it was really more in general about education and didn't really get into that much, really talking about special education itself. And then in the afternoon, they started talking a little bit more because it was a parent center, and they talked about from all viewpoints. They talked about from the student's viewpoint, they talked about from the parent's viewpoint, from the school's viewpoint. And one of their main points of emphasis that they hit on several times was that it's really important that we have as much inclusion as possible, that we put the students in the least restrictive environment, and that we really focus on trying to get them into the regular classroom as much as we possibly can and around their same age peers. That was a lot of their focus.
Great. Great. Thanks.
Also, I've been in contact with Ron Fisher because I wanted to make sure we knew exactly when the election dates were, and they basically come out with them about this time of year. And the election date that we want to shoot for the bond election is January 13th, which means that we need to have our final resolution, our final date to have the resolution is November 13th.
That'll be here before we know it.
Yeah, so it's coming upon us pretty quickly. I talked to Renaissance because after we'd had our special meeting, Amy, I got to thinking about, you'd asked about some cost estimates, and I thought, well, they probably can do a better job of that than I can. And so I asked them to come up with some cost estimates for anything that was rated a 1 or a 2.
Right.
And then I've been in contact with them several times, and they don't have it yet. I told them, I said, well, let's keep working on it, but you need to get down here, and we need to go ahead and get started on, the cost of the building, renderings and all the things to get the paperwork ready for that bond election, because time goes so quickly, and if you're not careful, well, it's on top of you and you're
Sure.
not ready. So
I saw Socrates at the airport the next day after the special meeting.
Did you?
He said,
Yeah.
"You don't need to be going anywhere.
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
working on this all the time."
So that's kind of
He
what
just laughed.
That's kind of what I told
He
them
didn't
too.
turn it
We
No.
need to get hooked up on this. So hopefully they'll be coming down pretty quickly. And I told the staff that we're probably trying to meet with them to find out what they would like in the various classrooms and different disciplines too. So, but it's time to get on with that process. And we kind of plowed that ground before, and so that should help us. But they need to get together with me and let me kind of direct them on where we are, so we can get moving on that.
And sometimes you having done some of that before, you almost feel like you have better ideas.
Mhm.
You know, the things you didn't think of when you were trying to think of everything the first time. So maybe that will make it more fruitful.
I think so. I think so too. I wanted to announce too, and it's on your agenda, but we're going to be able to, and we talked about this before, have the Schools-Seminole language class at the high school. Really excited about that. Kevin Fields is going to teach that, just 1 hour to start with. But I think that'll be really interesting, and I hope we have a lot of students that are interested in taking that, and we want to expand that. He's probably just going to teach it for the first semester, and then we have some others that are working on their certification, but there's very few in the state that are certified to teach it. And as soon as we get someone else, well, then I'd like to expand it to as many students that would like to take it. So that's something I'm pretty excited about too. Right now, I think it's going to be first hour, I believe. Isn't that right? First hour right now? No. First hour is where we're having the dual speech and debate. Yeah, fourth hour on the Seminole language. Yeah.
That's great.
Okay. Then the last thing before I turn it over to Ed is that I want to compliment him on the job that he's done. He's really been a great addition to our staff. It's really helped. First time I've been able to take a 2-week vacation. And so praise the Lord for Ed. At this time, I'll go ahead and have Ed come up and talk a little bit about the summer projects and where we are.
Good evening. I've stood here a few times, obviously never in this capacity, so I'm glad to be here tonight. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be involved with this group. It's a pretty impressive group. I've enjoyed working with Mr. Pritchard and Assistant Superintendent, and that group in that office they've been great. Kay's had to slap my hands a few times, make me pay attention. The billing and all that's a little bit different, but I'm trying to learn as we go along. But I've really enjoyed working with all the principals. Their enthusiasm for teaching kids and getting a safe environment is contagious, so it's been fun, and I thank you for the opportunity. I've got a lot of notes here, but I'll try to just hit some highlights. I know that you've noticed some of the things that are going on, and if you have any questions, please feel free to hit me with them. At the high school, you've seen, I think, the new concrete outside. We're trying to do some things out there, and some new benches are on the way. We've tried to restripe the parking lots. We've repaired several walls inside the building that were in bad shape. A lot of air conditioning leaks, that type of thing. New carpet in the library and the computer labs. Some changes there. We'd also, we're working on some janitorial closets. I think those closets have been there since the beginning of time, and they'd like some upgrades, so we haven't got those completed yet, but we're working on them. The middle school was really in pretty good shape, other than some AC leaks, I think, that had been going on for quite some time, and I think we have those fixed. Some, minor things like door closures, things like that, but they're in really good shape. Northwood School, we had a lot of loose railings, like going upstairs. A lot of rooms needed carpet and some needed tile, that type of thing. We built some clothes racks, tried to get some things straightened up. The staff has worked hard over there doing some cleaning and getting some stuff out from underneath the bleachers. in the gymnasium, so it really looks good. It's much more organized. Outside, I'd like to thank Mike Grant and the city for working with us on the sidewalks and taking out some trees and building up some areas out there that look really good. It's going to be much safer too. We're also working on some platform for the pole vault pits. And you probably noticed what's going on. Actually, I think they poured concrete on that this morning, and I haven't been over there to see it yet. Didn't have time today, but they'll be taking the boards off around that Wednesday, so we should be wrapping that up pretty quick. I think it's going to be great. Those pole vault pits were headed downhill for quite some time, so that should be a really good deal. We have a lot of AC work going on at Northwood. I don't know why they all decided to go down in the last 2 weeks, but we're working hard, and we've got McCown over there working hard to change out some compressors and some electric motors and things like that, lower motors. But hopefully we're going to have those ready for school to start Thursday. Woodrow Wilson. I know that you're all aware of the changing of the guard over there, the first grade, third grade thing. And we had a lot of carpet changes in there, so it really threw timing off, getting the thing back together. But it's looking good. We're changing out all the drinking fountains. We're trying to get the height adjustments on whiteboards and get the restrooms the way they need to be. So it's been really busy over there too. We have had a lot of vandalism outside, and we're working on some things to fix that. I think you've probably talked about that, new cameras that are needed over there. We've talked about several new cameras. We'll put some signs up, smile at your own camera, or whatever, whatever we've got to do to get their attention, but we've got to do something over there. We've also placed some locks on the Freon lines over there, so hopefully they'll stop stealing our Freon. Most of the issues that we had there were Freon loss, so I think we're in pretty good shape there too. We had to change some chain link fence and repair some of the wood fence, but I think we're in pretty good shape over there. Betty L. Smith, we did add some partition walls in there to try and give some more privacy to the teachers. I think there was some bleed over there with those open rooms, so we tried to fix that. And we've got to upgrade some of our alarm system there because of that, and that was approved today, so we'll get that taken care of. But I think we're in really good shape there too. There's been issues, I guess, at all the buildings now with ice tearing the guttering off of the buildings. And the first building that we actually made the upgrades to was Betty L. Smith. So we added ice blocks. You probably have seen those. It just look like little white or clear pieces that are mounted up there. That's actually going to hold that ice back and let it melt and run slowly down instead of run off the building in a hurry and tear the guttering off on the way off. So we got that done. We had some downspouts that were missing, and the guttering was replaced. That was in really bad shape. So we'll periodically try and straighten all of those up at all the different sites. We had some pretty bad washed out areas because of the guttering, and I think we got all of that taken care of now. And we're trying to kill weeds and stuff in the playgrounds and just get things straightened up. You probably noticed some pretty visible things going on at the stadium too. We've changed a lot of boards out and tried to dress some things up. We also put up new goalposts over the weekend. I think they look real good. Coach Snyder's happy, so life's good.
They look awesome.
Thanks. There's some new tile in the shower areas, and we're putting up new shower fixtures, trying to upgrade those. There are some safety features built into new showers now where they have scald protection, that type of thing, so we're trying to get that done at the same time. Yeah, any questions about the facilities? And I'll start talking about safety, some of the safety things we're doing. Any questions about facilities?
You got new carpet.
Yeah, we got new carpet too.
We got new carpet in there.
Let me say
nice.
this too, that this is the type of thing that I really appreciate about Ed, because we've had an issue at the high school for some time with the air conditioning and leaks and condensation, and you know, we've tried to get people in there to explain to us what was going on. It causes every year our you know, not just the leaks, but the ceiling tiles begin to sag because of the humidity. And the solution that we were given by the experts was to put a bigger tray in there to catch the condensation, which that is just evaporating into the room and causing more issues. But Ed was able to get up there because he's a hands-on guy. He got up there and thought that, and I think this will be a good solution for us, that we can wrap those pipes with a tape that will keep that from happening. And so we can alleviate that issue rather than just putting a tray under it to catch the water and then let it evaporate into the room and make the ceiling tiles sag. This is a true solution, and that's what I appreciate about him so much, is that he's in there, hands-on, looking for solutions himself, and he could give a lesson to our students about critical thinking and problem-solving skills, and hopefully he will.
I'm not afraid to get dirty.
I know.
Was there, I feel like I heard something with the bathrooms on the first floor of the high school. Are we switching those between male and female, or what have we done there?
We are.
Okay.
Yeah, that was, you know, yeah, that,
Was that in your safety?
Was that going to be part of safety? I'm sorry.
No, that's
Proceed.
fine. That's
yeah.
fine.
Safety.
It's a good saying.
I'll go ahead and hit that. Well, one of the things that I think a lot of people were concerned about was some of the things that were going on, because the men's restroom, the male restroom is further down the hall, way down there by the old gym. Well, so many issues going with that. We needed it to be at the other end where our police officer's office will be. He'll be closer. It's a lot more supervised in that area. There's other teachers in that area too, so it'll be a lot better. I think we've already got that set up. We've got a partition wall in the back, and we've made a janitorial closet in the back part of that, so there's no, we'll call it play area for anyone to do anything other than use the restroom and then get out. So we're going to try and address that quickly. I think the first day they're going to stay closed is what I heard our principal say, and then give everybody some time to acclimate to that. It's a pretty big change, and then we'll get some signs changed around and that type of thing. But I think we'll be ready. Really, we just need a new lock and signs changed, and we're ready to go. Yeah, on the safety side of it, I'm really pleased to have Officer William Williams, who we know as Willie. All of us probably have known Willie maybe the vast majority of his life. But if you don't know some of Willie's work history, Willie is he is the only officer that I'm aware of who has worked as a city officer, county, state, federal, and tribal. So he has a lot of experience. He's from Seminole, graduated from Seminole. His heart is here, and he has a genuine concern for these kids just like we do. So I'm really excited to have him on board. I think he's going to be great. He's a good example. I mean, just a great guy to be around. So I'm really, really happy to have him. Looking forward to going to school resource officer school with him. I'm going to try and go with him, and we're going to hopefully learn some things together that's going to help us get better. On the other side of that, we've scheduled some elevator inspections, sprinkler inspections. We're done Saturday. Alarms and fire extinguishers are all either completed or scheduled. So we will be ready for school to start. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about was the MIPS program. And I know some of you are familiar with this, but it's something that the college has done, and we did with the city. MIPS is a mass immunization prophylaxis strategy. And basically, if there is some kind of a bird flu, for example, or any swine flu, anything that could affect our community, there is already a program set up nationwide, and we are a part of that. The college is actually a staging area for treatment, shots, pills, whatever needs to be done. So the Center for Disease Control would activate this plan, and they would get all the immunizations ready, send them down to the state level. The state would send that to Shawnee. We, as a community, pick ours up and bring it back to Seminole State College. And then we're trying to treat everybody, the 28,000 people in our county. But there is a much more simpler way to treat our group, and we can be a part of this MIPS program by signing up, signing an MOU with them and being a part of that. And basically what it does is assures us that we're signed up. Everybody that's in our group with the school will be immunized. Everyone will get their pill shot, whatever they need, and we don't have to worry about them getting sick or having to go somewhere and stand in line, in what we would term the sick line, basically to get a pill or whatever. Since they're an employee of Seminole Public Schools and we're signed up on this program, we can go pick up our portion of these pills, and we distribute them throughout our group. So everybody is treated. We know that our employees are safe. So I think it's a good deal. It's much better than trying to do it the other way. 28,000 people standing in line is not a good idea, and you know we have the ability to do this. So I'm glad that we're going to be a part of it. We're trying to gather up the rest of the information that we need to sign the MOU, but we'll have that pretty quickly and be ready to be a part of that. Any questions about that? A couple of things on safety. A monitor will be added at high school for the officer, so he'll be able to see all the cameras that are in the building from his office. Not that we want him to be sitting in his office all day, but he will have to take a break on occasion, and he can review looking at the camera, that type of thing from there.
So where will his office be? Where will the office be?
By Krista's room.
Okay.
Yeah. New cameras added at Wilson School to help combat the vandalism. And we also want to set up some time to meet with principals. Obviously, we'll be seeing the high school and the middle school principal probably on a daily basis, but we want to make sure that we're staying in contact with all the other principals at all the other sites. And picking some time so we can go over there and be directly involved with them. The other thing we want to do is try and set up times with those principals where we can have direct contact with the teachers too. We feel like that it's very important to have that feedback from the teachers. They're hearing things and seeing things that we need to know about on the safety side of this. And I think they're going to feel better about it. They're going to get buy-in from this, and I think it's going to make us better and safer in the long run. Officer Williams is working on a donation for a police car. We don't have that 100% yet, but we feel very confident that that's going to happen. Trying to get a black and white from either the city or the county. Both have agreed to do that, so we'll see how that turns out. I think it's pretty important that visibility is going to be a big deal. We've had several meetings with the police chief, Shane Marshall, to make sure that we're in agreement on SOPs and those types of things, make sure we're staying in contact with them, and, you know, we're staying within their guidelines and doing all those things, since we're going to be tied in with the city, to make sure everybody's happy. And I think it's going very well. There will be evaluations completed at each site, school site, before school starts. We'll have a checkoff sheet, which all the way from playground equipment all through the buildings, and make sure everybody understands, you know, what our plans are, and going forward, how to contact the police officer, that type of thing. Make sure everybody's on the same page. A few of the future plans that we have going on right now. One is demo of some, and I know that Mrs. Willis, I know you're aware of this, but not everybody notices this, but it looks really bad. The insulation that's hanging down in the sunroom at Northwood.
I'm very well aware of it.
We're in the process of tearing all that out and getting that spray foamed and painted. I think it's gonna look a whole lot better. We have about half of it done right now, but we're still working on it.
That was supposed to be done a long time ago. I'm thrilled.
We're gonna get it done. The other thing at Northwood is a drainage ditch, trying to get some water off the playground area. We've noticed some standing water out there just north of the sidewalk, so we've got a plan, and we're gonna try and enact that to get that water off that playground. The other thing, a big thing probably, is closing in the walkway area to the portables at Wilson. As hard as I tried to get that done, it wasn't going to happen. For some reason, air conditionings keep taking priority over getting that closed in, but we're going to do that. I think it's a pretty big safety issue, and it really needs to be done. We will get it done. The other thing at Wilson that I think looks really bad, and Mr. Pritchard has pointed out, I don't think I noticed it as much until we were doing a walk around and noticed that the paint on the new area of Wilson School, the north end where the classrooms are in the auditorium, the paint is coming off of that roof. The green is just flaking off. It looks really bad. And I think we can just power wash that and wipe it down with some a neutral chemical and respray that. I think it's going to look really good when we get through, but we're working on that too. We continue to work on the roof leaks. Incredibly, there are 18 air conditioning units that are leaking at Northwood, and we're fortunate that we have a decent flat roof underneath that, and everything is kind of running to the drains that were already there on that old flat roof. So it's coming off the roof fairly well, but we're going to fix that. I think from the other leaks that we found, we figured out a way to correct those. It's kind of a matter of researching and actually being up in the roof when it's raining and watching. But anyway, we think we know what we're doing, and we're going to try and get it fixed. So. I think somebody said something about the sign at the high school earlier. Had some visits with Chris Hammond and Gary Young, and I think they got part of that sign corrected. The north side is working for sure, and the top part's working. I don't know about the south side, so we'll continue to work on that too. We'll also, we're doing a demo, or going to do a demo in the restroom and shower area in the weight room at the stadium. It's in pretty bad shape, but that's something that we can do in-house, and I've been visiting with Coach Schneider about that. I think we can get that corrected in-house also. The other thing that we have going on, and I think you're all aware of that, is the new maintenance minder software that's going on right now that we just put into the system. It's really, I think, going to streamline the process and to give you an idea of how it works. If a teacher has an issue in her room, she will go to the website, put in her request. That goes to the principal. The principal would either approve or disapprove. If they approve, it comes to me. It actually hits my phone. I've got a few. I think they'll probably test from Mr. Cobb, but it is hitting my phone. I know immediately if there's an issue anywhere. I will give them feedback immediately on whether that's something that we can get to immediately, or if it's going to, we're going to have to order parts, and depending on what I know about what's going on. But I think that's going to help our communication. I think there's a frustration level from janitorial running up that things are done quickly. And I think if we give them some feedback and they understand why it's not done quickly, I think that's going to help them and us. So the communication should get better. I think that's about it. Any questions?
No questions. I
Thank
think
you.
it's very impressive. Thank
Yes,
you.
I do too.
Thank you.
One thing, in addition on that system, it's for maintenance requests, transportation requests, and technology requests.
Oh, great.
So it covers all of those. Yeah,
Wow.
and we'll save a few trees and have it. We can follow it online. And the fact that the principal's okay before it's sent on is huge, because that keeps him involved in it. And we've asked him to kind of check and see if it's something that can be addressed, in-house, or if we need to have somebody come do it. So.
Do you have kind of a running list of needs? I mean, it kind of sounds like you do.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And you got to run to keep up with it.
Okay.
So it is truly a running list, I
Yeah.
promise you.
Good.
But Ed's doing a really nice job. Really appreciate him. Really do. I think then that Ms. Willis had asked for Ms. Cheewood to give a short report on some of our third grade reading results and
Okay.
where we are with those.
The good news is that 79% of our third grade students scored above unsatisfactory this year. 57% of those students were proficient, with 22% being limited knowledge. Only 18% of our students scored unsatisfactory, and that was about 23 students, and 17 of those students qualified for the good cause exemptions, which meant that they were IEP students with at least one retention. We had 3 true retentions out of that number. The parents had actually considered earlier in the year to retain those students, and we're only going to have 3 committee meetings all in all
Good.
for probationary promotion.
Very good.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Sounds great.
Appreciate it. Okay, that concludes our administrative report.
All right. There was in the Sunday Oklahoman, a nice little blurb about Coach Snyder and the football team.
Yeah.
That was kind of nice.
Mhm.
I'm surprised. I was just reading along. It's like, hey, how'd you know that? It was in the big paper.
Number one, too.
Yeah, pretty cool. All right, report from Rhonda Townsend regarding special education.
Good evening,
Good
Mr.
evening.
Pritchard, members of the board. This evening, I'd like to report to you on, or provide you with some information and an update on the special education services of Seminole Public Schools. As most of you already know, we have in Seminole County and in Seminole Public Schools, we were part of the Seminole County Interlocal Cooperative for at least 20-plus years. I'm not sure what the exact number is, but about 3 years ago, the decision was made to move one of the classrooms in the cooperative, the multi-handicap classroom, to Seminole from Awoka. And at that time, we contacted the State Department of Education. We asked them about least restrictive environment, free appropriate public education for students with disabilities, and about whether or not there were any issues with us moving that classroom there, since we had at the time, and continue to still have, only students that were part of our alternative education program. Their response to that is as long as your parents are supportive, you should be fine. but we knew that it was only a short-term solution and not a long-term solution. And so as time went on, and we spent 2 years in the co-op with students from other places within the county coming to us to have their services in Seminole Public Schools. And then last year, in the spring, you all made the decision for us to, and I'm grateful for this decision, to no longer be a part of the co-op, but to pull out of that and to provide all of the necessary services independent of the co-op situation. So in this last year, I'll just tell you, has been a pretty steep learning curve. We did provide all of the educational services for our students. We ended up with 2 classrooms that would be considered self-contained. We had a classroom at Lincoln. We remained there for a year, and we ended up with 5 students being enrolled at the beginning of the year, and at the end of this last school year, we had 2 students that were still there. Some moved away, some graduated, and so on. Then at the middle school, we have a classroom that serves students with intellectual disabilities. And again, at the beginning of the year, we thought our projections showed that we would have 5 students. And at the end of the school year, we ended up with 2. Actually 3. I apologize, it was 3. And so we're looking at our projections, and we're looking at our situation, particularly what's going on at Lincoln, where we have so few students and so little interaction. And what we've been doing is moving those students, transporting them to the middle school or to the high school so that they can be around some of their same age peers. That is important for them. We know that that is part of providing the least restrictive environment as well as faith. So we've been doing that all along, and as I began to look at the decrease in the numbers, really started the wheels turning, and I called on a group of parents, visited with them individually, and said, you know, you guys, I said this to all of them, whenever I need advice, you are my best advisors. You know your children far better than any of us do. I need you to tell me what the pros and cons would be if we took the students that are being served at Lincoln and we moved them into the classroom with the students at the middle school. That would give us, if our projections remain the same, that would give us between 4 to 5 students. Right now, I think we're looking at 4. That can change. And so each one of them, and I just have to say thank you to those parents that are so good to visit with me and trust me, and I can trust them, and we can just have open and honest conversation together and know that we all are on the same page and wanting the very best for these kiddos. And a lot of what we talked about was, you know, what happens to the kids in the multi-handicapped classroom if we have a day where we only have 1 student? Do we have the stimulation, the interaction that is necessary for them to continue to grow and to thrive? And we talked about everything from the LRE to safety to health to the facility to the feeding of these students. Everything that they could think of and that I could think of, we pretty much hashed out. And so, you know, I finally just said to each of them when I called, so at the end of this conversation, what would you think about us doing that? And all of them said, I support it, I think it's a good idea. And so the decision was made, and I know that Mr. Pritchard had mentioned that to all of you in previous board meetings, that we were considering that. And so Mr. Lemmings has gone into that classroom, and one of the other upgrades they did was in this particular classroom at the middle school. They have built us a changing room. We've moved equipment over to the middle school that is necessary to provide for the needs of all of these students. We're excited about this. I think it will be a much better situation. We will no longer be taking some of our more fragile students out into the rain. We can integrate them into classrooms anytime that they're able to do that. Sometimes they are and sometimes they aren't. But it just provides us with more opportunity, and it is a better long-term solution for those kids.
How is it staffed? Are there still
Yes.
2 teachers?
I have one teacher, and then I think we have
Is it the
one
teacher that was working with which class? Or
the
is it a
teacher
new
that was
teacher?
working with the intellectual disabilities class, but she is also certified for the other.
And then what are the other staff?
The other staffs, we have one person that is a shadow assistant for an individual student, and then 2 paraprofessionals to serve the needs of the remainder of the students.
So we have 4 adults and 4 students.
And also coming in and out of that classroom throughout the week and the days will be the folks that will be providing the occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech-language therapy services.
And there are no students that visit that class on a part-time basis at all? The only students that are in there are the 4
Yes,
to 5
that's
students
correct.
that are self-contained?
Yes, yes. But these students have the ability to go into general education classrooms.
So the 4, I missed that. In addition to the 4 teachers, there's also the professionals like this occupational therapist and
Yes.
speech.
Yes.
Okay.
You have
Yes.
4 adults, 1 teacher, 1 shadow assistant, 2 paraprofessionals. So you have 4 adults and 4 students. But then also we have the occupational therapist, the physical therapist, and the speech pathologist.
And we contract with them independently?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we actually have a contract to a company that provides those services for us.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And are the paraprofessionals full-time?
Yes, they are. Consideration was also given to whether or not we needed to add an elementary class for students with intellectual disabilities. You know, regardless of which age group you're looking at, that has to be, you have to staff each year and look at where your needs are and where those students are. There, you may have years where, you know, last year we started with 10 kids. At the end of the year, we ended up with 4. And so that changes what your needs are at times, and, you know, are we able to meet the needs of the students that are in the
You had 5
programs?
at the end of the year.
I'm sorry, 5. 5 at the end of the year. So that leaves us looking also at the elementary, and do we need to add a class there? At first, I thought we would need to, but as I looked at the age of the students, remember that in public schools, we serve students beginning at age 3. Many of those students go to various Head Starts, and then Seminole Public Schools provides related services for them. The age of the students, when I took a look at that, oh, and also, if students are not participating in Head Start, then they are able to bring their children to BLS, and we provide related services there. When we started looking very closely at the numbers and the age of the students, we do not feel at this time that that's necessary, but next year it could be. It could be that we would be in a place where it's time to add an elementary, but right now, we're in good shape.
In other words, there may be someone out there at a Head Start that may be coming to us next
Yes.
year.
Yes, in
But
fact, there are.
None of these students, all of these students are age appropriate for the middle school.
Yes,
They
they're
are
middle
with their
school, high
peers.
school.
They're all middle school, high school age.
They are all middle school, high school, correct. In the 2 self-contained classes that we currently have.
Now, I do know, and I don't mean for you to recall every IEP meeting you've attended, but just generally speaking, last year was a huge watershed year for us and for a lot of students. And I know that generally speaking, because I attend a lot of IEP meetings in other districts, and it is viewed just in terms of special education philosophy, the least restrictive environment is something that is generally to be celebrated.
Yes.
That is a goal.
Absolutely.
For a school district, for parents, for students, you are looking to place children in the least restrictive environment possible,
Yes.
with ultimately a traditional classroom being the goal, if and when that's possible. Did you have any situations in which, and I know you can't reveal names or give us any information that in an open public meeting that might lead to us drawing conclusions of that sort, but you find any situations in which, after a year of mainstreaming, it was determined that it might be more appropriate, that the least restrictive environment for any of those children that had been mainstreamed for the first time this past year might be a return to a self-enclosed, self-contained classroom?
No, actually, our students that return to the mainstream have done very well.
Great.
We have a couple of students, you know, what's interesting about the things that you just said is that in our meetings yesterday, I'm trying to remember what today is. No, not yesterday.
Friday.
Friday, thank you. In our meetings on Friday, I don't remember if it was Joanne Blades or if it was one of the other ladies that, I think it was Joanne. She pointed out that one of the things that we're seeing, not only in the state of Oklahoma, but it's also being mirrored across the nation, is that that students are coming to us at an earlier age with behavioral problems. And remember, cognition doesn't necessarily translate to behavior or vice versa. You know, a behavioral problem means that we are having trouble with meltdowns. And the things that we used to see at 6, 5, 6, 7 grades, those grades, now we're beginning to see in pre-K, the 3, 4, 5 age range. And so that kind of has led me kind of on a path of looking for what do we need to do and what kinds of things do we need to provide our teachers with? Do we need to provide for our parents? Do we need to provide for our students? And so...
So while it may seem like a student faces challenges in a more traditional, less restrictive setting, that may just be that there's more stimulation there, more things going on. So a behavior, behavior
intervention.
Yes, may be necessary, where, as in a self-contained classroom, that may not have been as necessary.
That's right.
It doesn't mean that the child isn't doing well and progressing educationally.
Right.
It may just mean that there are a lot of other stimuli to
Yes.
have to deal with.
And what they pointed out at the meeting the other day is that many, many times what we're seeing is our mental health issues in our younger children. It's just, it seems like it's coming at an earlier age. I don't know if we just didn't do a very good job of identifying that as a society in the past, or if we had fewer resources available for parents. I'm not sure which that is. But that is the trend that we have also seen here in Seminole. We do have some students that have some behavioral issues. So because of that, that has kind of led me to looking for some things for our folks. And as far as I'm concerned, it's just continuing education. It is educating parents, it's educating students, it's educating our teachers and our administrators and letting them know. And that's where my relationship with the Oklahoma Parent Center for the Special Education Resolution Center, where all of that comes into play and the things that we are looking to do. So we began this year, and it's baby steps for us because we took on a lot this last year. But one of the things that we're working on right now is we're looking at, this is what we need to do for our teachers at the beginning of the school year. So that was our day on Friday. And then what do we need to do in the future? You know, back in the spring, we made an announcement on School Messenger about a meeting with Parent Center. We did have parents that showed up. I went to the meeting. We had parents that came to that meeting and received some education. I think Mr. Schutz, you were there.
And that is a really big deal. We are one of very, very few districts that the administration provides that information to parents. And there's some information that in the state, that you have to provide according to the State Department of Education, but information about the Oklahoma Parent Center isn't part of that. And there are a lot of districts that just expect parents to educate each other or expect the Oklahoma Parent Center to find the parents somehow, but it's on our website. It's, you get the word out. We have parents that get the word out to each other, and you don't attend those meetings to find out who, you go to be supportive.
Yes.
And I think that's very
And you know, and like I said before, I'm very blessed to have a great relationship with parents in our district, most of whom are children that have the greatest needs. And spend a lot of time with them and visiting with them, and it's good for me, and I hope it's good for them.
I think sometimes too they panic though. I
They
think
do.
sometimes too they hear when they attend things with people from other districts, and when they, you know, there's just a lot of information out there that if a school is recommending it or if a school is moving to it, there's got to be something.
They don't understand the process, and they need some handling.
Yeah.
And they need support, they need resources, and that's what we are intending to have for our families. And so some of the things that we're planning on doing this year is I spoke with Dr. Gary Duhan at the Oklahoma State University, and we are talking about bringing him in to help us at the lower elementary sites to do some data collection and behavior, managing the most difficult behaviors that we have in our schools, helping teachers understand in a general ed environment what can be done in those classrooms as well as in the special education rooms, as well as how do we reach out and help families. And so that's something that we're looking to get that. I'm not sure, he's been working with the State Department of Education, so I'm not sure contractually exactly what we need to do, but that's where we're headed. We need to be looking at, you know, what are the triggers that may cause students to just have a meltdown. It may be something very simple that's going on in the room. It could be the ticking of a clock. It could be multitudes of things that could be addressed that we as teachers are so used to that we just don't see when we walk into the classroom. Then we're also looking at partnering with the Parent Center and the Resolution Center to bring in Dr. Laura Riffle. I don't know how many of you have ever heard her speak. She is amazing. She is all about managing behavior as well, but it's not only with special needs students, it's also with in just general population of students.
She has also done a really neat, she has a really neat presentation to children that is really good at talking to children without disabilities, talking to children with disabilities, and helping them understand one another, helping them understand behavioral problems in children. She would be great for kind of like a student assembly, even with very young children. She's very good.
We would, our goal has been for that is to have something, work with our faculty during the day, and perhaps, you know, even if she went from building to building or however we wanted to set that up, but then in the evening have something for families to come in and invite them all, bring them in, take them, you know, somewhere and give them some refreshments and just take care of them. So those are some of our goals for this year. We just want you to also know that we are fully staffed. I don't think that all special education departments can say that right now. At Betty Smith, we have a half-time special educator there, someone that also, it's Courtney Moyer, she also serves a half-time counselor in that building. At Wilson, we have 2 special education teachers. Northwood has 3. Middle school has 3, which includes the classroom that we have for our kids with the most cognitive disabilities. At the high school and the alternative ed, we have 3 full-time. And right now, we have 7 additional assistants for individuals, not counting what's at middle school in the 1 classroom. That number changes from time to time depending on enrollment. And so I, was on the phone with a couple of the sites today talking about, what we're going to need. Do we need to add additional staff? So that's just whatever our kids need.
Those 7 additional include the shadow assistants.
Those are the shadows.
Those are the shadows. Do we have any paraprofessionals anywhere
They
else?
are all paras.
Okay, all
of
the
them.
shadows are paras.
All of the shadows are paraprofessionals. When I came to Seminole in 2006, in the fall or the summer of 2006, actually, we had 228 students being served with an IEP. And at the end of the 2014 school year, we were serving 400 students. So we have grown. I do believe that we are serving our students well. We are contracting with Tecumseh Physical Therapy for related services, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and physical therapy. We contract with IMARC on our billing for Medicaid, and that was a huge learning curve for all of us that were a part of that. Everyone from the therapists that were at the sites and how they go about keeping their SOAP notes, because if you're going to bill Medicaid, then you have to do the same thing they do at the doctor's offices. So everything to getting that organized, getting it in place, to how we bill back Medicaid and all those things that Kayla and Kay are so wonderful to help with in our office and things that we do there. But because of that, we recovered about $85,000 in 2014 that would have been left sitting on the table.
That's fantastic.
And very proud of that. And I just will tell you that just through experience and getting to understand the regulations of Medicaid billing and what's expected on our part, and what's allowable, what's not allowable, we expect to increase that amount probably that we recover by probably $30,000 next year.
And those are all reimbursements for therapies?
Yes, just for related services. And also, we are exploring, because of understanding regulations, exploring if we have some students that require shadow assistance, how much of that we might be able to bill depending on how their IEPs are written and so forth. So we'll just see. At one point this past year, we did have a student that required a full-time nurse, and we did bill back Medicaid for that, and we're able to recover that part of
I think
that.
if it's skilled nursing.
Yes, it's skilled nursing care. Do you have any questions?
Nope, you've answered all my questions. Thank you very much.
I found that, and you never know what you're going to get, but on a lot of questions with regard to Medicaid and referrals and stuff like that, the Healthcare Authority, my experience has been that they are actually pretty helpful.
They are very helpful.
Very helpful.
One of the things that we're required to do is that for every student that is going to receive a related service, we have to have a parent consent form for the Oklahoma Healthcare Authority in order to be able to bill Medicaid. Even if they're receiving Medicaid services, if parents do not sign that form and give us permission, then we cannot bill back. So it's pretty important, and it's our sites and our therapists. We're going through, we tried to get everyone we could signed up at the beginning of the year. It took us a little bit because it was a new system for us, and we were learning lots of new things, trying to educate parents about what we were doing and why we were doing it. And so we have people who signed up at the beginning of the year, some at the middle, some at their IEP meetings. So our goal this year is to get everyone so that whenever you have your yearly IEP meeting, that's when you will sign the form. It will be part of our paperwork that we have here in Seminole Public Schools. But to get the year going this year, we must have those forms signed at the beginning of the year, even though, if that's when they did it last year, and then when their meeting time comes up, we'll sign the form again, and that's how we'll get everybody in that cycle.
That's a great idea.
Well, and the group that you're using for related services, I've heard very positive things
They are amazing.
about them.
They are amazing. We have a new person that's going to be at BLS this year. We're excited to have her. But they have done, the first thing they had to do was they had to pull together all of those IEPs for students with related services, and we sat down and they went through a rewriting phase to where our IEPs for related services are now uniform. It was huge. And it took some time, but they did an awesome job, and I just have the highest regard for them and their work ethic and the things they did for our students and how they served our students and their families so well.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rhonda's been with us a while, and I probably neglect to thank her for everything that she does. You know, I'm telling Ed how much I appreciate him, but Rhonda, I want you to know how much I appreciate you. our students and our parents are really blessed to have someone that really has a heart for the kids. And I see so many times, not pointing a finger at anyone, but that so many special education decisions are made around money. And we've tried really hard to not let that be a driving factor in any of the decisions that we make. We try to provide the best education for the students in the least restrictive environment, and our goal is to get every student into the regular classroom as much as possible. I've seen just year after year that, especially some of the ED kids, when we've had self-contained ED classes, it's been rough. I mean, it's really been rough. But when we put those kids in a regular classroom, it can be challenging for the teachers at times, but those students do better. They really do. Putting all of them together into one class is, to me, is a formula for disaster. I see why people might want to do that, but it's not best for the students. It's really not. They're better off in every situation when they're around their same age peers, and we really try to do that. And one of the biggest challenges getting out of the co-op was related services. That's what Rhonda and I talked about a lot, is that this is a thing that could make us or break us because it's so expensive. And and I asked her to investigate the Medicaid billing, and knowing it was going to be really complicated and it would be a hard process, but she jumped right on in there and did a lot of research, figured out what we could do, and really did a fantastic job with it. And being able to build that has really helped us be able to step out of the co-op, and we kind of looked at that before we made that decision, knowing that we could probably recoup some of those costs. And I really appreciate her efforts in that, and I think we're really blessed to have somebody that really cares about the students and has a great relationship with the parents.
I've gotten a little bit of negative feedback, and it's probably from certain individuals that about that, and that we recovered this amount of money, but we're not providing those services that they were getting.
No, that's not.
But I know.
Yeah.
But this encourages me. They are getting the services.
Well, better services.
Better services.
Better services.
And I think
Yeah.
that really needs to be made clear that this decision was the right decision.
Yeah.
And anything we get reimbursed for, we've provided. It is a reimbursement, and it was an ancillary
Right.
service.
Right.
We are not getting reimbursed for things that, for teachers, for,
Right.
for any service that Seminole Schools is providing.
Yeah,
We're getting
it's all the
reimbursed
related
for
services.
outside
Yes.
Yeah.
related services. And we had to spend it first in
That's
order
right.
to get reimbursed.
Yes.
Well, and one thing, and Claudia can attest to this, that when we were in the co-op, it could be hit or miss whether they got their services.
That's right.
We went through times where our students didn't get the speech services for a long time.
Sometimes
and
the
it was
first
out of-
quarter of the
yeah,
year.
It was out of our control, but now this is in our control, and we've asked the principals to kind of help monitor that and ensure that the students are getting their services. And I would put up, what we did last year in the related services with the students up against any year we've ever been in a co-op. I think that from the education in the classroom, because, one of the reasons we wanted to get out of the co-op is not that there was anything against any other schools or any other programs, but we feel like we're the best equipped to educate our students. And all of our students are here. They're not having to go to Kanawha or to Bowlegs or to New Lima or to Wawoka. They're here with us. They're our students. They get to be in with their same age peers, and we get to provide all their services here, and we get to make sure that they get them. It was really difficult for us to know if there was a student that was at Bowlegs, if they were receiving their related services or not, because we didn't have anybody there to monitor any of that. We just had to trust that was happening. Now we know they're getting the services, and so I don't know who's told you that or anything, but it's not the case.
And there are lots of groups that you can contract with for outside services, but the group that you all have found, the Tecumseh group, really does an excellent job of providing great people in every one of those
Right.
areas, and that's
And
so nice.
I had a conversation with them today, and they're coming tomorrow at 8:30, and all of the related services people will be there. We're going to do a staffing. We're going to do the schedules. They'll be ready to go on the first day of school.
That's wonderful.
That is wonderful.
You don't always find that with
No.
No, they're really good. Okay.
Thank you for the report.
We're on number 7.
A lot of reporting today.
7 at 7.
Okay, consider and take necessary action to approve a resolution to designate operating and investment funds and permission to invest.
I'll make a motion that we approve said resolution.
I'll second that.
Roll call?
Jack Cadenhead?
Yes.
Jamie Mills?
Yes.
Amy Coclaser?
Yes.
Kay Levy? Claudia Willis?
Yes.
Consider and take necessary action on a resolution to adopt a Section 125 flexible fringe benefits plan for the employees of Seminole School District to be effective on September 1st, 2014.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Roll call?
Jamie Mills?
Yes.
Claudia Willis?
Yes.
Kay Levy? Jack Cadenhead?
Yes.
Amy Coclaser?
Yes.
Consider and take necessary action to approve the following companies for payroll deductions for the 2014-15 fiscal year as listed, if you don't mind.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Jamie Mills?
Yes.
Kay Levy? Jack Cadenhead?
Yes.
Amy Coclaser?
Yes.
Claudia Willis?
Yes.
Consider and take necessary action to ratify the 2014-2015 negotiated contract with the Seminole Association of Classroom Teachers.
Jeff, did you bring a copy of the agreement?
You should be in your packet.
It's in our
Oh, the whole
Yeah.
agreement?
Yeah.
It's on the board policies. No, the changes.
Oh, just the
Yeah.
changes?
Yeah. Which is what should be signed, T-Aid on it.
First one in the yellow.
Oh, I was wondering if I could get a copy of the whole agreement. I wasn't going to make you all sit and wait while I read it before
Okay,
the motion.
sure.
But just when I texted you that, I was just.
Right,
that's what-
yeah, sure can. Should be one actually in your board policy book.
I
That should be
don't
part
have
of
one.
it too.
That's what,
Okay.
let's see.
I'll be glad to get you one.
Okay, great, thank you.
And just want to say in this that I'm really happy to be able to provide a 3% raise. And this totals about 7% over the last 2 years, and there's no one else in the state that's been able to do that. So I'm really happy that we're in a position where we can, take care of our teachers. The state needs to step up and do something now, but at least we're in a position where we've been able to do something for them.
I don't have one in my policy book. I've got a tab for it.
Okay, you got a tab, but you don't have one?
Right.
Do you know, Jamie?
I
if
don't
you-
know, I didn't get a chance to check.
I
Okay.
haven't gotten my book back, but I'm going to from Ann Ray.
It's not in yours because
Okay,
I.
well, we won't give it back to you
today.
yet then, so we get it in there.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, that should be in there. Actually, you should have everything. Okay, so if you don't have the handbooks and everything in there, because we don't, everybody, like all the teachers, we allow them just to look at that online, but the school board should have the negotiated agreement, the handbooks, and board policy and all that. Yours should be, so if you don't have all that, let us know.
Okay.
Okay.
I gave it to Ann.
Oh, okay, sorry, I wasn't trying.
That's all right.
All right, so we're still on 10.
So I'll make a motion that we ratify the 2014-15 negotiated contract with the Seminole Association of Classroom Teachers.
I'll second that.
Jack Cadenhead?
Yes.
Amy Coclaser?
Yes.
Jamie Mills?
Yes.
Kay Levy? Claudia Willis?
Yes.
Consider and take necessary action to approve the site plan for the Wilson BLS reading sufficiency for 2014-2015.
I would like to say on that, I did look that over, and everything in there looks great. It looks like it's completely in line with the state law. My only concern is I would like to see something in there as to the time frame that we will get this information out, or the time frame perhaps that our student reading proficiency team will meet, or at least get some preliminary information. I know this is the first year that we were doing that, but we did have that situation in which we went from, I think it was June 19th was the end of the summer school program, and, I know that you all held the first, let's see what it was called again, Student Reading Proficiency Team Committee meeting that went very well, thankfully on August 6th, and it had a good result and a good outcome. I know it was originally set for August 12th, and I just think it would be so helpful if we could put something in our policy that says maybe at the very end of that summer reading program, when we have preliminary information like that, there will be some sort of preliminary meeting, maybe even a preliminary meeting of these, of this committee that will meet at that time.
Okay. Would you like to table it and then add that, or just approve it with the idea that that will be added and approved when the addition is made?
I don't mind approving it, subject to adding some sort of time frame in there. I
Sounds
don't
good.
have a problem with that. I just
We'll get
think
that taken care of.
having
Okay.
something in there, and you all can consider it best how to put language in there that won't tie your hands, that will be realistic and something meaningful.
Mhm.
But at the same time, you know,
Well,
would make
we
sure
discussed
that
that too, and I think that the thing that's a little bit difficult at times is that, the parents might even be resigned to a student not advancing, but we always want to tell them going into summer school, now if they pass this test, they might be able to go ahead and
oh, I
advance.
know. And you
that
want
gives
to
them
say
hope.
they're doing
Yeah.
a good job, and you
Mhm.
want to,
Yeah.
yeah, I know. And I think that's all the more reason to
Mhm.
try to get some hard data into
Right.
their hands,
I agree.
just to kind of firm things up, so
Right.
there isn't a chance for some confusion.
Right, I agree.
Or
And hopefully the state will be
misunderstanding.
better with getting information to us quicker too,
Sure.
as things go on.
Sure.
But I think they'll be glad to add that to it.
That'd be great. So I would then move for the approval of the policy as presented, with the suggestion that it contain kind of a time frame for the meeting of the student reading proficiency team.
I'll second that.
Jack Cadenhead?
Yes.
Kay Levy? Amy Coclaser?
Yes.
Jamie Mills?
Yes.
Claudia Willis?
Yes.
Consider and take necessary action to declare the Fiat tractor and 92 Ford pickup as surplus.
So moved.
I'll second.
Sad to see that old pickup go.
Claudia Willis?
Yes.
Amy Coclaser?
Yes.
Jack Cadenhead?
Yes.
Kay Levy? Jamie Mills?
Yes. Consider and take necessary action to approve the ING 457B plan.
Yeah, this is something new we haven't had in the past, and they've offered an opportunity for us to provide this for our teachers, which gives them another option. We've actually had the 457Bs, but this is a true plan that gives them more investment options. And as they presented that to me, I thought, well, we need to do everything we can to encourage our teachers to be investing, toward their retirement, especially if the state makes a move I anticipate them making pretty soon in changing the teacher's retirement system. That's going to make it that much more important that teachers are investing on their own as well, because if it goes to a defined contribution instead of a defined benefit plan, there will be no guarantees that there'll be any money there in the teacher's retirement system for them. And so I think we need to provide as many options for our teachers as we can.
Now, this isn't an alternative vehicle for them to invest their teacher retirement
No.
or anything. This is just at no cost to the district.
Exactly.
It's another way that they could have an automatic withholding if
Right.
they wanted, if they chose to.
Right.
Okay, great. Then I would move for the approval of item 13.
Second.
Jamie Mills?
Yes.
Kay Levy? Jack Cadenhead?
Yes.
Amy Coclaser?
Yes.
Claudia Willis?
Yes.
Consider and take necessary action to increase the pay rate for certified substitutes to $75 per day. What
I'll
are-
make the motion.
What are they at now?
62.
Yes,
62.
and we called around to see what other people were paying, and Barnum is
Oh,
at
it says right there.
50 and 60
Okay.
for non-certified and certified. Woke's at 47, 50, and 55, and Shawnee's at 50 and 60. Tecumseh's at 55 and 60, and Conowall's 60 and 70, and New Lima's 55 and 60. But we ran into some days this spring where we just didn't have anybody, and so we really wanted to. And you prefer to have certified people if you can. And so we wanted to make it where if there's any choice that they would come to us.
Yeah.
And so that's why we want to raise this to make it kind of a
And what is
no-brainer.
ours for not certified?
For non-certified, ours is 57. So 57, 75, just flip those numbers.
Okay.
I'll make a motion. We increase the pay rate for certified substitutes to $75 a day.
I'll second that.
Jack Cadenhead?
Yes.
Kay Levy? Amy Coclaser?
Yes.
Jamie Mills?
Yes.
Claudia Willis?
Yes.
Consider and take necessary action to approve a 3% salary increase for all salaried support staff and a 25-cent per hour increase for each step on the support staff hourly schedule.
Had a little bit of a difficult time coming up with the wording for this, because if you look at the salary schedule that I provided for you, there's not a set amount of each of the steps. Some of them are 7 cents, some of them are 12 cents, and so we tried to come up with something that was an accurate portrayal of what we were actually doing, and what we're doing is adding 25 cents to each step. Now, an employee that is with us for, for at least their second year, they could translate into, it could be a 35-cent an hour increase, could be 37, could be a 33, depending on what that step is. But it'll be an increase, the step, and that extra amount for each of our people. We have really hard-working staff that do a really nice job, and we've been trying to continually add to that and want to do that as much as we can to tell them how much we appreciate them, and get, some of those wages are still not where we want them to be, but we're going to get them there. So.
I'll make a motion to approve the salary increase for the salaried support staff as stated.
I'll second that.
I'm assuming that means for the hourly too, right?
And the
Oh, did I
hourly.
not? I'm sorry.
Yeah, and
Yes,
the
the hourly.
Okay.
Sorry.
Jack Cadenhead?
Yes.
Kay Levy? Jamie Mills?
Yes.
Amy Copelager?
Yes.
Claudia Willis?
Yes.
Consider and take necessary action to approve a location change for purchase order number 1104 in the general fund.
We'd have originally approved this for work at the high school, but realized that the money would be better spent at Wilson, and so the auditor just recommended that we just have the board approve that we change the location from, this is what we did to cover the breezeway between the building and the portables at Wilson.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Jamie Mills?
Yes.
Kay Levy? Jack Cadenhead?
Yes.
Amy Copelager?
Yes.
Claudia Willis?
Yes.
Consider and take necessary action to make the following changes in the Seminole Elementary School Handbook. Remove the heading ELT, replace it with the section listed as intervention listed below.
I'll make a motion that we consider changing the heading from ELT and replacing it with intervention.
Could we, I read this, and I know we kind of gone back and we had it one way when we moved to another way after school. I mean, I like this. Could we kind of have more detail in there about, and y'all did a good presentation on, how it works. We're not just taking
Yeah.
a slew of kids out of music
Right.
I like the
3 days a
program.
week, or
Yeah.
band 3 days a week.
Right.
I
I think that Ms. Need might have what we need right here that she could give
Okay.
to you. We could
'Cause I
add to
text-
this and approve.
Because I wanted to make sure it's the same thing you all did last
Yeah.
year.
Yes.
And we
Right.
could,
We
we
love
could
that.
add this part to the handbook, that's a little more detailed. If you want to take just a minute to read that over.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Beautiful.
Oh, yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah, that's good. That
That
gives
really
that gives
helps
it
me
that gives the
because-
detail. Yeah,
Yes,
that's
yeah.
good.
So would you want us to eliminate what is written there and replace it with this in full?
I-
It's a little redundant, I think, if we have both. So-
I agree.
I would
think
just
you could
Yeah.
replace this.
Yeah,
with
I would
this.
just replace it
So
with this,
that-
if you don't mind.
Oh, I don't mind, it's copy and paste, I can do it.
Oh, okay, that would be
And
awesome.
Mr. Cobb's had my, please post this one, please post this one.
It just helps me so much to go back to refresh my recollection as to what the intervention
Right.
is, and I think it's such a great program that you all have going. I still remember the presentation that you all gave, and so that all three of you participated in, and I think that's just wonderful.
That more like you want.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
if I
that's
could
great.
just to brag just a little bit on the program.
Oh, we'd love for you to.
Mrs. Wilmot has received phone calls from different schools around the area that are wanting to replicate the same thing. In fact, she heard from Strother. And then there's a little buzz at the State Department. They're interested in what we've got going on as well. So,
Wonderful.
kudos to these ladies. They worked so hard to get this going, and I really enjoy and appreciate their hard work.
It's wonderful. We appreciate you all too.
No, thank you.
That's great. Thank you, and thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Ms. Sneed. Appreciate it.
So we need to
I will,
change the motion.
Well,
Motion
this
was
has
just to
actually been
change
submitted
the-
now, so you could just approve this, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will second Ms. Willis's motion, or
That adopts this.
that adopts what was presented by Mrs. Sneed.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Amy Coclaser,
Yes.
Jamie Mills.
Yes.
Jack Cadenhead.
Yes.
Kay Levy, Claudia Willis.
Yes.
Possible executive session to discuss the employment of those certified and/or non-certified personnel listed in Agenda Item 21 and 22 pursuant to 25 OS Section 307B1.
Sorry, it should say 22 and 23. We keep
Oh,
adding
yes, it is,
agenda
22 and
items.
23.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I would have ever
Wouldn't
noticed
put
that, but
Mhm.
but you're right.
Okay, sure. I think a little short one.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we do enter executive session to discuss the employment of those certified and/or non-certified personnel listed in said agenda items.
I'll second that. That's probably the correct way of doing that, instead of just my preference.
Roll call.
Jamie Mills.
Yes.
Kay Levy, Jack Cadenhead.
Yes.
Amy Coclaser.
Yes.
Claudia Willis.
Yes.